Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer 3 video. In today's video we'll be looking towards Total War Warhammer 3's campaign once again. However, this time we're going to be looking at the possible narrative aspect of it. So without further ado, let's begin. The Total War series of games has always been largely, if not almost completely, sandboxed. Depending on the game, you're normally given some sort of narrative when picking your race or faction, but then after that you're off on your own merry way doing as you please. The Total War Warhammer series, however, brought a bit more of a narrative aspect to things, more subtle in Game 1, but a bit stronger in Game 2. And it is very likely that the third and final game of the series will also have a decently strong narrative for both the base game and any DLC for the future. But before we start speculating on the narrative for the third game, let's look towards the first and second game to see if we can more or less find something that ties them together. Please note that we'll be mostly talking about the base games themselves and only briefly touching upon the DLC packs as and when applicable. Firstly, we'll look towards Total War Warhammer 1, the most sandbox of all of them at the moment. While it can be argued that there are little to no story elements, there are a few sparks. The perfect example would be that of the base game, which has a Chaos Invasion, which might be possibly foreshadowing the end times in Game 3. Here you would start your playthrough as any of the 4 baseline races and factions: the Dwarfs, the Empire, the Vampire Counts or the Greenskins. From then on you would play your campaign as you would any other Total War game, and it's not until much later when the narrative aspect would actually kick in. As factions are waging war against each other, building up and thus getting stronger, a new threat will appear from the north, that of the Chaos Warriors led by Archaon the Everchosen. Here you'll see many factions allying up very quickly in an attempt to repel the invaders from the north, stopping the event known as the End Times from actually happening. The End Times is an event in Warhammer Fantasy where the usually divided forces of the Ruinous Powers finally joined together and led an unholy crusade across the Warhammer world, which eventually saw the world itself destroyed. The End Time scenario itself is further reinforced by the DLCs. In the Warriors of Chaos DLC, you gather your hordes of Chaos Warriors in an effort to finally destroy the world. Unfortunately though, it would seem that the Chaos God Tzeentch has other plans. Because as you find yourself in a position where you are almost unstoppable, the god himself will turn against you and send one of his own personal greater demons to meet you in battle. Seeing as the Everchosen needs the support of all 4 Chaos Gods, it could be possible that this is a nod that the End Times are still not to begin. The other DLCs also had some sort of narrative, for example the Wood Elves protecting their hidden realm of Athaloran from the Beastmen and seeing that the Oak of Ages does not get corrupted. The Beastmen themselves amassing massive Bray herds in an effort to lay waste to the nations of men. And then finally Norsca, their objective being to unite the tribes, lay waste to the known world, and finally either deciding to join up with the Everchosen and destroy the world, or defeat him and do it yourself as the true chosen champion of chaos. Total War Warhammer 2 further expanded upon an End Times theme. In the base game, the 4 playable races seek control of the magical font of power known as the Vortex. Each race has its own specific reasons for wanting to control the Vortex, some for the greater good, whereas others for more nefarious deeds. Here, as you try to complete rituals to gain control of the Vortex, a number of Chaos incursions will be sent out against you, possibly by the will of the Chaos Gods. Unfortunately, Chaos does not have that much big of a part to play here, considering that most of the campaign is actually centered around the race towards the Vortex and the races fighting against each other. But the presence of Chaos is there, and further felt in the epilogues of both the Lizardmen and Arkan the Black's playthrough, where a Keeper of Secrets known as Nekari had made its presence known. Further hints towards the End Times are pointed out in the DLCs of the Tomb Kings and of the Vampire Coast, but not in the terms of Chaos this time, but rather Nagash, the great Lord of Undeath. Where in the Tomb Kings campaign as Arkan the Black, you are seeking the 9 books of Nagash in order to bring about the revival of your Dark Lord, whereas with the Vampire Coast there is either contact from a servant of Nagash himself in one way, shape or form. Which leads us to the speculation regarding any narrative towards Warhammer 3. Now, given the fact that I've been speaking about the End Times quite a lot in this video, you might think that I'd say that the End Times would be the likely candidate for the base game campaign. While I do think the end times will eventually feature in the Total War Warhammer series, I believe that that is more likely to feature in the big mega grand campaign or whatever they decide to call it, as for a true end time scenario we would need access to the whole world or as much as Creative Assembly are willing to put into that mega grand campaign map. A true end time scenario needs to be done on as much map as possible featuring every playable race and every playable faction. Without that, it would be very hard to capture the scope and feel of an event that destroyed the whole universe. So what could be the possible narrative for the base game campaign for Total War Warhammer 3? In truth, this is hard to know. As of yet, we've only been given the announcement that they're working on Total War Warhammer 3, and we're still not aware of what the 4 baseline races will actually be. But many of the fans of the series believe the following. When the base game releases, we'll get access to the following 4 factions. Kislev as an Order faction, the Ogre Kingdoms as a true neutral faction, and the Chaos Dwarves and Chaos Demons respectively as Chaos factions. But these races are all very drastically different and unfortunately not much really ties them towards each other. However, I am one of those people that believe that we will get these 4 races as the base game factions. But instead of the campaign tying all 4 races together, they would each have their own respective goals and mechanics towards their campaigns. And my ideas are as follows. Firstly, Kislev would start off fractured and divided, but the ever-drawing threat of chaos looms closer and closer. Here, you would have to face 4 small chaos invasions at first, one of beastmen, one of Norska, one of warriors of chaos, and then finally one of demons. After defeating all 4 invasionary forces, then you would be put to the real test, where a united chaotic front would stand against you, a true legion of the Ever-Chosen. Something like this would represent Kislev's nature of being the first true line of defense against chaos. Next would be the Ogre Kingdoms. Here all the playable legendary lords would seek to become the Over-Tyrant. So you, the player, would have to go about beating down all the other ogre factions in an effort to become the Over-Tyrant, whilst also fighting off the Chaos Dwarves who seek to enslave your people for their demonic-infused forges. Next would be the Darwizar, the Chaos Dwarves, who would seek to enslave all races they consider lesser to them. With the more slaves that they acquire, the stronger their war machines could become, considering that they'd have more of a workforce. They would also be planning to launch an invasion against their Darwi cousins to the west, considering the fact that they still feel abandoned and resentment towards their cousins, who consider them an abomination. And lastly would be the Demons of Chaos, which their objective would be rather simple, spreading demonic corruption in an effort to begin the end times. A possible way about this would be having a similar mechanic to Norska. You can destroy cities and erect temples to your chosen Chaos God. However, instead of dedicating yourself to one god, you would dedicate yourself to Chaos Undivided, so you can build as many temples as you want in the similar vein as Nakai the Wanderer. The more temples you build to a specific god, the stronger those units become. When you finally max out the power of all 4 gods, you can begin the true end time scenario, which would then lead us to the eventual release of the big mega Mortal Empires campaign, and then we would go from there. By then we've probably seen a lot of new DLCs, including Nagash and so on, and we'd go from there. A true end time scenario to mark the end of the series. Yes, there'll still be a DLC being released for it, but there won't be any more new games. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a little bit of a discussion. Do you guys think that this could work, or do you have any other ideas on how the narrative aspect would be in Total War Warhammer 3? But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below, we have various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team, talk to us about Total War Warhammer, Warhammer Tabletop, or just anything really. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase whilst using this link and also using our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. Honestly, it's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to our Fame patrons, Gibraltar LUSC and Ryan Bertsche. Honestly guys, you're super cool. We could not thank you enough. And a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, the channel is growing a lot lately and it's all thanks to you guys. So as long as you guys are enjoying the content, we'll keep producing it. But once again, my friends, thank you so much for watching and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.